All right, here we go. We are going to be talking about stowing the Parawing, and this is something that a lot of people have been asking me, like, oh, do a video on stowing, and what they want to see is me pack up the Parawing and chuck it on the belt. Stowing the Parawing properly, and where people actually find the most difficulties in stowing is actually in that first initial bit of stowing, where you're transferring the power of the wing, right, or the wind, to the power of the waves. So if you don't do that properly, that's when you run into issues of the Parawing still, catching power, or still being powered up and doing some weird loops or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stagger these videos into two parts. Part one, we're going to talk about how to depower the Parawing. And part two is where we're going to talk about the folding technique and putting it in the belt. All right, so part one, what do you want to do when you're depowering the Parawing properly is to maximize the amount of wind that you're losing because you're going downwind. And when you do that movement, you create a little bit of slack on the lines and create slack in the whole system. And that allows you to run your hand on the lines, through the lines, a lot easier. So think about it this way. You're riding. You spot the bump that you want to catch. A lot of people, what they do is they bear downwind, but they go 45 degrees downwind. And that's tough because at 45 degrees, there's still a lot of power in the Parawing. So once they go through the lines, no matter how you go through it, front lines or rear lines, doesn't matter, the Parawing still has a lot of power coming into it. So it doesn't allow you to depower it properly. So what I want you guys to think about and practice is going out on a day that it's around 20 knots. And when you go downwind, point the bar towards the Parawing and see how it reacts. What you want it to do is you want the Parawing to basically fall in front of you, not on your head, because you're going to do that in front of you. But once you start bearing downwind, let's say it's a 20 knot day and you're riding downwind now because you're pointing downwind and you're riding downwind at 10 knots, the wind that is in the Parawing is no longer 20 knots, it's 10. It's 20 minus whatever speed you're going downwind. And that's the important concept to get right. And when you start practicing it enough, that happens quickly. You go downwind. As you're doing that, you run your hand through the lines and you can already start going the other direction and you're done, right? So it's a synchronized movement. So let's see a couple of clips of me doing that. This was a day that it was around 16 knots, so it was very easy to see that fall. This becomes less and less apparent as the wind gets stronger. So there's obviously, if it's 30 knots and you bear downwind and you're traveling at 10 knots, now the power on the Parawing is still, 20 knots of wind, so there's still power. But that's when, if you do that simultaneously with running your hands through the lines and you get the timing right, it becomes a lot easier. So let's go to the clips. So in this first clip, I am riding to my right and I start bearing downwind slowly. And you can see that I'm putting the Parawing in the power zone. And what I want to see from the Parawing is it not having enough air to fly. And as soon as I hold on the rear lines, it basically falls in on top of my board. I bring my arms up, and from there I can stow it either through the rear lines or the front lines or any way you want. But what is worth practicing and worth understanding is the transfer of power from the Parawing. And at this moment, there's no power in the Parawing anymore. It's only the swell that's propelling me. And that's what you want to do. You want to be able to transfer that energy and that power from the Parawing to your foil. And then from there, you collect the lines. And once you collect the lines, you can start putting it away in your pouch. This is another example. This time I'm going left. And in this example, again, you bear downwind the Parawing is right in the power zone right here. So this is where it should have the most amount of power. But I point the bar down, and as soon as I do that, the Parawing just disappears. And we need to be able to practice these things and be proficient at this depowering technique before we even think about stowing this Parawing in our belt. Once we do that, we grab the lines, we're riding the swell, and we're ready to go. So in this last example, going left again, but what I want to show here is as I begin to go downwind and point the bar downwind, you can see that the Parawing's still flying and it still wants to continue to fly. So I have to take a moment, point further downwind, and then I collect all the lines, and then I'm riding the swell. So that's the initial challenge you're gonna face when you're starting to learn this technique. Bear downwind, understand how much downwind you need to go to fully get the power out, or maximize the amount of power you're releasing to be able to grab the lines and grab the canopy, while still being in the right spot in the swell. So that's the difficult part. So once you begin to practice this, you will notice that you will start bearing downwind, you're going to collect the lines, and you will already reposition yourself in the bump to be at the right place. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to ride that swell all the way down, because you need time and you need, you know, to release all that power, to then think about where you are in the swell. And then you're at the worst spot, which we all know is on the bottom of the trough. You have a ramp in front of you, and you're not going to be able to pick up speed with the bump behind you. So let's recap. Bear downwind. As you bear downwind, you grab the lines, and you're not reaching the bottom of the bump. You're in the middle of the bump, and you're peeling. You start to peel to connect to the next bump, or to pick up speed and assess your options. In this last example, I am riding a 3-meter pocket rocket. It's around 30 to 35 knots. There's big, fast swell around. So I bear downwind, I point the bar down, and as soon as I do that, I go straight to the lines. And if you notice the position of the board here, I'm not going straight downwind. There's enough speed in the bump to release the Parawing to the amount that I need it to release to grab the canopy, right? So you will need to go downwind as much as you need to. This is a feeling. This is a sensation that you can feel in the bar, that you're ready to collect the lines. And then to be in the right spot here, I need to go downwind a bit because the bumps are moving quick. So I point downwind, collect a little bit of speed, turn right, turn left, and now you can see that I'm not thinking about the Parawing. I'm just riding the bumps, getting into the right spot, and then I can continue my downwind run and do that with enough speed, and I can think about stowing the Parawing. So let's practice this before we go into the next step of the stow. Go out, bear downwind, make sure that you feel the power in the Parawing going away, collect the lines, ride downwind a little bit, hold the lines, redeploy the Parawing, and practice that multiple times going both ways. And when you feel that you understand where you need to be in the water, how much downwind you need to point to get that energy to dissipate, then go to the second video, and then we're going to be talking about packing techniques, how to do that properly to maximize your redeploys. All right, let's go.